Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel that takes place a decade before the events of the first game, playing first as the outlaw Arthur Morgan in the main story's 6 chapters. Before following John Marston's journey in the epilogues, you'll get to explore a large open world filled with life and crammed with many things to do and discover. In part 3, I cover the state of Lemoyne, where I've managed to put together as many Easter eggs, secrets, references, and points of interests that I could find. And if you do enjoy this video and want to see part 4, then subscribe, that way you can stay up to date on all future videos I put up. And if you do want to see the previous 2 parts, then I'll leave a link to those at the end of this video. Now it's time once again to journey into the world with Arthur Morgan and John Marston. Starting out in Scarlet Meadows, a region with distinguishing red soil, lush fields, and plantation farms, are plenty of secrets and points of interests to discover. One location that can be marked in the journal is this abandoned town. Founded in August 1883, the town of Pleasance 1 month later was the site of a massacre that left 10 people dead. The graves reveal the cause of their deaths, either by gunshot or knife wounds. One family home has graffiti claiming that they were sinners, and the barn warns of a plague. But as there are no notes to read, and no further explanation can be found anywhere, it's left unanswered as to who was responsible, and why this really happened. By heading into the woods south of Pleasance, a dead snake can be found hanging from the branches of a tree. There are many small snakes that can be encountered within the game, but what makes this a unique discovery is the size of this creature, as it's large enough to devour a man. Near to the Braithwaite's plantation home is an outhouse that holds a family secret. Locked within it is a young woman who appears to be disfigured and unhinged. While the player is unable to open the door, she can be heard ranting.
Want a kiss? Ah! Kill you! I'll kill you! You like that? You like my hair? You stink! You stink! Where's my mother? Oh, bastard. Oh, bastard. Oh, you some bitch! Hey, here. Yeah, what about this? You want to marry me?
This is the daughter of Catherine Braithwaite, named Gertrude, who instead of being cared for at a sanitarium, her mother chose to hide her away to avoid shaming the family name. Returning here years later as John Marston will reveal that Gertrude eventually died in this outhouse. In the fields at Braithwaite Manor, there's a scarecrow with a pumpkin head that has a derby hat you can shoot off to obtain. If Arthur returns to the Braithwaite Manor after Chapter 3, when the building is burnt down, you'll find the corpse of Catherine, who chose to perish in the flames with her dead family after their defeat by the hands of the Vandalin gang. By searching her body, Catherine's brooch can be taken and sold. Along with this, there's also a lockbox nearby that holds a single gold bar. North of Erris Field is an abandoned building called Compson's Stead, with a well in front of it that has a ladder the player can climb down. What's of particular interest here is what's found carved on the stone wall. Apart from the tally marks, there are images of crosses, some clouds, and a sun. It appears that at one point, someone may have been trapped down here, and as there are no corpses to find at the bottom of the well, they may have finally escaped with the help of someone using this ladder. Underneath the bridge just east of Pleasance is a century-old pirate skeleton with a wooden peg leg, who appears to have been burying his treasure before he died. A creepy encounter can happen when visiting a couple living at the Aberdeen pig farm. Tammy and Bray Aberdeen will invite the player inside for a meal. Bray will then ask them to go check on Tammy in the bedroom. In that small window of time, you can explore the home before dinner. The family pictures are revealed to be Tammy's parents, that strangely have scratch marks over their faces. While the floor nearby has a trail of blood leading to the armoire that, when opened, reveals the skeletal remains of her dead mother. It's only during mealtime that we discover Bray is not Tammy's husband, but her brother. And besides having incestuous relations, they've been luring victims inside to kill and rob, before dumping their bodies in a nearby pit. If you return to the house for your stolen money, the couple will then turn hostile. A strange discovery can be found on the southern shores of this region. On a closer look at this tree, there appears to be a rowboat resting on top of it. It's not known how it got up there. Perhaps a storm crashed the boat into the tree, or the aged pirate rum nearby even suggests the date of the boat to be over a century old and that the tree just grew underneath it. But like with many locations in the game, it still remains a mystery. In part 1 of my Amberino video, I covered in entry 26 Martha, a northerner who fell in love with a Confederate soldier named Garfield, who wrote a letter to her, questioning his beliefs in the Civil War. His skeleton can be found tied to a tree at Bulger Glade. By reading the letter from Martha, his death hints that Garfield may have tried to run away from the battle back to her, but was caught by his own side, bound, and executed. A body of a man can be found on the southern shores close to the tree with the rowboat. He appears to have died decades ago and is wearing a punishment collar for runaway slaves. This is further supported after reading the letter naming the man Elijah, a slave who managed to escape a plantation family before getting captured by a different slaver and brought to a place called Old Harry Fen. This is a location that can also be visited, where there is evidence that this shack was used for slave trading. But Elijah did escape again, and he died sometime later. On one of the islands west of Scarlet Meadows is a shipwreck that you can enter. By going to the back of the ship, there's a tricorn hat that you can acquire. A location called Robart Farm has something brutal to reveal once entering the home. On the approach to the shack, a bloody trail can be seen going in two directions. Going inside first, it's a scene of incredible violence. Two victims are dead and covered in blood. While the male lies on the ground, it's the female on the bed that appears to have died more savagely, as parts of her flesh have been torn away and her throat has been cut. By following the blood trail to the back of the house, the answer to what happened can be uncovered. Lying dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head is another female, with the murder weapon next to her. According to the letter found on her body, she was in love with the husband, who was having a brief affair with her before deciding to end it. This drove the woman to kill the married couple before turning the gun on herself. A spooky encounter may occur around 3 AM while travelling along the train tracks northwest of Scarlet Meadows. It's a one-time random event that will most likely happen if you're near to the Lemoyne sign. Around this time, a ghost train will appear. Moving on to the regions of Blue Water Marsh and Bayou Noir, which are areas that are full of marshlands and mangrove swamps, the Braithwaites are not the only wealthy plantation family to have a dark secret. By sneaking into the estate of Caligula Hall, owned by the Grey family, you can find the body of Tavish Grey, who appears to have only recently passed away. According to the letter nearby, it reveals that Tavish, for all his pride in believing he was a descendant of the Jacobites, was in fact the great-grandson of a spy working for the Duke of Cumberland, who helped to put down the Jacobites' rebellion in exchange for money. This revelation most likely is the cause for Tavish's death. Either he took his own life, or he died of shock. In the cornfields at Caligula Hall is another scarecrow. It's wearing a sombrero that can be shot off and collected. By heading toward the northwestern area of Blue Water Marsh by night, you may hear or even witness the ghost of Agnes Dowd, a young woman who had taken her life after Agnes's father killed her lover. Agnes's gravestone can be seen out back of the Shady Belle hideout. It states that she took other people's lives too, possibly a revenge killing on her family.
But what am I to do?
Easy.
I gave you everything. Everything I had. No one will have me now. You said all them things.
Her ghost will appear by the tree that the young couple used to meet by during happier times, before Agnes turned the tree into her gallows. Close to the Roanoke Ridge border is a small hill between two railroad lines that has a solitary gravestone. On a closer look, it shows a list of people who are only referred to as worker, with their ID number. The dates put their deaths only months apart, and although there's no clue as to who they are, there is a construction work on a railroad further up the line, suggesting that they were part of a crew from an older railroad work project. It's possible that they died on the job due to poor work conditions, and their bodies were carelessly dumped into a mass grave with their clothing thrown on the ground. An unusual point of interest can be found northeast of Shady Belle. A corpse of a man lying face down in the mud appears to have a withered left arm. It looks like the size of an infant's arm on a grown man. It's likely he came from the settlement of Butcher Creek, where they have various physical deformities. How this man came to be so far south of the map is anyone's guess. There's an eerie cabin deep within the mangrove of Bayou Noir, called Bale Edge, which has things within it that will alter depending on the character's honour. The animals in the painting can change between coyotes and vultures of a low honour to bucks and eagles of a high honour. There's a poem about Jimmy Brooks scratched onto the surface of a nightstand that changes if the player decides to spare his life instead of killing him. There even appears to be a connection with whoever lives here with the town of Armadillo and its local shopkeeper, Herbert Moon, who seems to be immune to the town's cholera outbreak. But the most bizarre event that occurs is with this painting. As you return several times to the cabin, the painting slowly forms an image. It's only when returning here in the epilogue as John do we see it's the strange man that John encounters from the first game. If you look in the mirror at this point, the strange man will appear. Try to turn around and the man will mysteriously vanish. On a small island northeast of Saint Denis, a lockbox, found half buried in the mud, holds an incredible revelation. Within it is a faded letter written by Lucille Braithwaite to Douglas Gray, ancestors of the two big families from the early 1800s. The letter states, the origins of the two families is bitter rivalry, as each blamed the other for the theft of their family gold, never knowing that Douglas and Lucille were responsible, as the lovers were against slavery and used the gold to help fund abolitionist organizations. There's a broken rowboat stuck in the mud across from Saint Denis. Within it is a skeleton and a broken pirate sword you can obtain. There's a peculiar looking church in the swamps east of Lakay that you can enter. What makes this church strange is its size. It's so small that the player has to crouch through the entrance to get inside, and there's no explanation as to who or why it was built like this. The abandoned settlement of Lakay has a few things of particular interest. In the sunken shack to the north is a cat skull mask that you can wear. While inside a nearby shed, there's a ritual jar on the table that can be shot at to collect a shrunken head. On further investigation of this location, there's a painting inside the main building of a woman holding snakes and dancing by the fire. The image may be of a female water spirit called Mami Water, suggesting that the settlement was the centre for voodooism. And the symbols found on the trees outside of Lakay further supports voodooism, as these markings, called Vive, are used by voodoo practitioners to invoke otherworldly spirits. South of Lakay is an unnamed cabin where the player can meet its friendly occupant named Sonny, who offers Arthur or John some food inside his home.
You looking for a friend? I'll be your friend. If you let me. So, you hungry, huh? I got food. I got food inside. Come along. Now come here.
What happens next is only hinted on, but the character will be knocked unconscious and supposedly cuffed to the bed. When they awaken, they'll be far from the cabin with only $1 stolen and all their cores depleted. If you return to the house, then the molester will lock himself inside.
This is a mistake you won't live to regret.
What the player does to him next is entirely their choice. Heading next into the city of Saint Denis, by going into this back alley and climbing the stairs to one particular door, you'll find the home of Trelawney, a conman for the Vanderling gang.
That was absolutely delicious, my dear. Thank you. Well, I think a toast is in order, don't you? To the Trelawneys. It's good to be home.
Trelawney's, that's you in there.
Arthur? What on earth are you doing here? I can't speak now. Sorry. Can we catch up in the office on Monday?
In the police headquarters, there are mugshots on the wall showing criminals who are still on the loose. Two of these show Mr. White and Mr. Black, characters that can be encountered outside of roads that the player can choose to help with their escape. By making a donation to the Quincy Harris Memorial Hall as Arthur, you can then return here as John in the epilogue to see Arthur's name on the plaque amongst others who contributed to the building's development, and John will even respond to this.
Arthur Morgan. Well, hello, old friend.
In the final act of the Stranger mission, Idealism and Pragmatism for Beginners, the player has a choice to kill or spare the mayor's former friend, Jean-Marc. If you opt to end his life and throw his body into the water at the back of the mayor's mansion, then while fishing in the waters nearby at a later time, you may catch a rotting arm instead of a fish. An Easter egg for the Undead Nightmare DLC can be found at the fence. Behind the counter on the top shelf is the Jade Olmec mask, which was the cause of the zombie outbreak. There are 5 mysterious messages around the eastern half of the city that can be recorded in the journal. These locations are supposedly the sites of 5 previous killings. And when the dots are joined on the map, the image roughly forms the shape of a pentagram. By then going to the alley south of the cathedral, between 12 and 1 AM, you'll find the vampire with his 6th victim. If the player doesn't heed his warning to leave, then the vampire will attack, using his ornate dagger that kills with 1 hit, a dagger that can be obtained after killing him. The vampire's image is based on Count Orlok from the 1922 silent movie Nosferatu. As a bonus for the last entry, I'll include a more general point of interest as this event happens across multiple states. By investigating the sites of 3 brutal murders and gathering the clues, will the player be able to confront a serial killer for this side mission. Finding the victims can be done in any order, but as there are no leads as to where they are, only by exploring the land will you be able to find them. One is located outside of Valentine. By following the bloody trail of body parts and entrails, the victim is hung up underneath a railway bridge, with their head missing and a message nearby. The killer's first clue is found in the mouth of the severed head. The other victims, one near a river south of Wallace Station and the other south of Bolger Glade, were killed the same way. Only after the 3 clues are found will the basement at Lucky's cabin be available to enter. By going into the back room will the killer appear. A man named Edmund Lowry Jr. tries to subdue the protagonist, but the mission ends with the killer's capture. He's then taken to the Lauren Valentine, where he meets his end after attempting to kill the sheriff. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video and I hope you enjoyed it. Part 4 will be released shortly, in which I will cover the state of West Elizabeth, so look out for that. And if you haven't yet and you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. That way you can stay up to date on all future videos I put up. And as always, thanks to all of you who have subscribed and are helping to make this channel grow. So until the next video, bye everyone.